Please go to askSlim.com to see our membership options and see our specials for 3-month memberships. There's something here for everybody, traders and investors. Trader psychology, a healthy mindset to set goals. This is going to be a pretty short video, no charts, no slides other than just me talking to you. And you may want to take some notes. This probably could be an impactful video. That's if you let it be. If you let some of the stuff sink in that I'm going to share with you. Here we are, in December, and this is often a time when people reflect. They look back at last year. They want to improve, do things better. Look at ways to improve and set goals, and challenge themselves to really step up and be different in some ways. There's often a problem with this is people set themselves up with unrealistic expectations. And they do it from a negative mindset. In other words, what I missed in the last year, what I didn't do or accomplish, or what I am not, or what others expected from us that I didn't meet up to. So we often get into this negative place, and from that mindset, we want to set goals for the next year. And that could often be a problem. Think about that. When you're looking forward, or you're trying to, in some ways you want to be different, but you're really looking back. Did you ever try to drive a car that way? Well, you want to be better and do better. And when you do that from that negative place, you're really trying to fill up a hole. And that makes it all a negative focus. When we go down that rabbit hole, just climbing out of it takes a ton of our energy. And then we need recovery time. So it's pretty hard when we keep looking back, when we keep looking at things that are negative, and we keep dropping down deep within ourselves to really do things that make improvements, because we're always trying to climb back, trying to get stable. When we do that, what's really left to make improvements? Where do we get the energy from? Well, we've spent all that energy just trying to get out of that negative thinking. So if you're operating, trying to get in that way, trying to get incentives from the negatives, you're going to get exhausted fast. And there's high odds that you're not going to make the improvements that you want. You're not going to be able to reach goals that you're setting. It means changing the mindset. Often it's tough because we're programmed in certain ways, and it means letting go. Part of us thinks that if we let go of all those negatives that we focus in on, that we won't learn, or we won't protect ourselves. So it keeps control, that part of us that's pre-programmed, driving us to actually focus on negatives. It's been with us all our lives, and we're programmed that way from old stuff in our lives. It could be from what went wrong different times in our lives, and we remember those things from old stuff that went on. It's all those agreements that we make of how we're going to live, how we're going to be, and we do that with our parents, or we do it with teachers, or we do it with other leaders who are all essentially telling us how we should act, how we should be. And it's all of those thousands of agreements that we spend all of our life, trying to meet up to. And then, of course, the focus on the consequences if we're not that, or we don't meet up with that. You can get a lot more of that philosophy by reading The 4 Agreements. I think it's a great little book, and you'll really help yourself in getting rid of those encumbrances or some of those, and really getting a good sense how we make all of these agreements in our life, and then when we don't follow them, we go into this negative place because that's how we're programmed to protect ourselves, to be different, to focus on the negatives. So the point I'm making here is to be successful and to change and to have growth, it's much better to do it from a positive mindset. That way we're not spending all of our energy just trying to get our balance before we do this. It takes a lot of intention. It takes self-forgiveness and embracing the positives about ourselves. This is the same for personal issues that you may be wanting to set goals for, or goals for business, and of course for investing and trading. Let's bring it to that right now, to you or to me. Focus on the investor or the trader just for the moment. So this is where I try to get you to be a little more introspective. And it could be that you're looking back at last year. That's most likely what's going on. You're thinking about what happened in the last year, and then trying to set some goals around, well, what you'd like to be different. So I want you to do that, actually. I want you to look back at last year. Just take a moment, and I'm going to pause for you to do it. Now just close your eyes for a second. You're probably sitting alone at your desk anyway, and just think back to last year, whether it be about trading or whether it be about other aspects of your life. Just take a moment and do it. So now I'm back, and I'm going to make a bet that those of you that actually did this little 15-second exercise focused on a negative. You know, you're thinking about what went wrong, money I lost, mistakes I made, goals I didn't achieve, who I let down, what I am not. Those of you that went to a positive place, well, great for you. I mean, that's really fantastic that you're able to do that and not encumbered with a lot of negatives that may be keeping you from moving forward. And you're way ahead of it right now because you've come to a place where you can really focus on positives. But those of you, which I'm going to believe are the majority, that did focus on negatives, well, there's some work to do. Because you can't really form your life. You can't really bring yourself to what you want to have in your life when you're doing it from a negative place. Again, you can see how the negatives come in as part of us wants us to remember them. The reason for that is that it wants to protect us. I've talked about this aspect of ourselves in the past. That there is a part of us whose goal is to manage our risk, to protect us, to keep us from getting in trouble, and it does that by helping us remember the negatives in our life, the agreements that we set, and the consequences that we pay when we don't achieve those. We're programmed with that. We must, and I'm going to highlight this, to be able to look forward, to be able to really achieve our goals, to accomplish what we want, we must intentionally stop that process that will then set us up for success. So if we can stop that process of sinking into the negative thoughts, of reviewing and ruminating, it will set us up to have more success. If we do that, we will operate from a positive place. We must intentionally operate from the positive. That means stepping in. It means doing things in a way that we recognize this negative process that's going on for us, and we discourage that. We give it up. When we operate from the negative, we get negative results. We discourage the positive aspects of ourselves that bring success. So if you're operating from the negative and that part of you believes in the negative because it wants to protect you, then why try? Why even engage? Why set goals, or why believe that you can meet your goals? So that's what happens when we operate from the negative, and that's why we must intentionally stop that process to set up our success. If we operate from the positive, we encourage those aspects of ourselves that bring success. We encourage them to come forward, and we have much higher odds of making our goals, reaching those successes, and of course having joy in our life. I've said this so many times before in trader psychology videos that I've done, and especially in the 5 essential building blocks to successful trading. If you've taken that workshop, we create our own sense of being and the life we want. It's based on our mindset, and it's when our mindset is positive, we bring a positive way that we engage in our life. If you haven't watched a video that I produced a couple years ago, and I've even offered it to free members because I think it's so impactful, it's called My Big Lie. In there, I talk about how we have this belief about ourselves that is so negative that we use to reinforce the positive, which is really an oxymoron. It does not work. And if you really want to learn more about what I'm talking to you about now, I think you should go watch that video, and you can find it in Trader Psychology in our video library. So now that I've focused on that, and have focused on the difference between the negative mindset and the positive mindset, I just want to kind of just talk about a simple little process to help us operate from the positive. I'm going to give you a little example of what I would say is the old way, because I'm hoping that you're going to embrace the new way here. It's about dealing with that internal dialogue that we have going on inside of ourselves. That is that risk manager part of ourselves that is talking to us and often holding us back. So let's just use the example of what is the goal I want to set for this year, or a goal that I want to set for this year. So I just made one up here that I think it'll fit for some of you. And that is, I will study 60 minutes before the opening of the market each day for this year. I will review and prepare and plan. Seems like a good goal. It also seems like a big goal. That inner voice comes up and says, "You never do that. You are lazy." Of course, it's trying to prevent you from setting up for failure, which is an odd dichotomy because it will then keep you from even trying, and there is failure. So there's the paradox. It says, "You went this whole year poorly prepared. You won't change. You never change." So when that voice comes in, that part of us that is reminding us that, if we try to do more, we just will fail again, so why try? We just shut down. It's what we have allowed ourselves to believe for a long period of time, and what really we set ourselves up with because we think we're protecting ourselves, or we're allowing that part of us to protect ourselves. So now let's talk about the new way, a little different way to do it, and a way that you could do it to make it more palatable, achievable, and do it in a positive way. And the goal in here, when we think about this, is to stop that dynamic that's going on within ourselves, to prevent that inner risk manager voice from coming in and telling us what we're not or what we can't do to keep us out of trouble. We want to really not allow that by recognizing it very quickly and then changing the dialogue. And that's what's so important. The first example, the old way, is a negative dialogue, and you could hear that very clearly, and for some of you that might have been very familiar. What I want to do now is to create a new way, a positive dialogue that has a much higher probability of bringing you success. So what we're going to do now is say, what is the goal that I want to set? And, it's the same goal. And I changed it a little bit here because I want the language to be a little different. So instead of saying for the whole year that I will study every day 60 minutes, I'm going to say I will be more prepared for each day I engage in the markets. So you see, I've kind of cut that back a little bit because I don't want it to be too big. And then that inner voice comes in again. You never do that. You're lazy. And now I interrupt it. And now I want you to do the same. And instead, speak your truth. Don't let that voice come in. Stop it as quickly as you possibly can. And then you change it. You speak your truth, the real truth. And you go to things that you've been successful in. I work hard to blank. You fill in that blank. It may be to get a degree, to be a great parent, to be a great father, to be a great spouse, to work hard with your partner in another business and be successful, and how you've affected the world in positive ways. We're going to put a positive spin on it. We're going to interrupt that inner voice that thinks it's protecting you and yet brings you to a place of being discouraged, and not let that happen. Don't let yourself shut down. List your achievements. Embrace your success. That's what's going to stop that part of you from thinking it needs to protect you, because you're stepping in and protecting yourself. Embrace the parts of you that bring success. So if you were successful in other ways in your life, think about what aspects of you brought that success. Fill in the blanks. I'm smart. I'm determined. I take action. I'm disciplined. How many different things can you fill in there that are personal attributes that you can now put this positive spin in there? When you do that, you will not shut down. You will believe in the parts of yourself that are great, the parts of you that bring success. We want to get in the way of that inner dialogue, that negative dialogue that comes up because it thinks it's going to protect you, and instead fill it up with what is are really powerful aspects of yourself. So now let's look at it a little more here, a little further. And you'll note that, I changed it. Instead of making the goal every day, I did it different. How about making the goal smaller, palatable, achievable? We call this in some of the personal growth work that I've done, taking a stretch. So instead of saying, I'm going to study for 60 minutes every day and be prepared, review, plan, instead of doing all of that every single day and trying to make that commitment, say, for the next week, I will study for a certain period of time, 30 minutes, 60 minutes before the opening. You see what I said? I said only for the next week. That's achievable, right? Not for the whole year. When you get past 1 week, you could do it again for the next week. And it's important to be accountable. You're not only accountable to yourself, but you share it with a spouse or partner or a trading buddy, and check in with them. Check in with them about what we call this stretch, this commitment that you're making. About 1 week or 2 weeks, and then check in with them again at the end of a week or 2 weeks, and let them know how you did. It doesn't matter if you were perfect or not. The only thing that matters is that you worked on this for a week, and you could see where the challenges were, you could see where the successes were, and then you go on to the next week and you do it again. And if you take these small bites, these little steps, you will be able to be different. You will accomplish things that in the past were not achievable. You'll tell that part of you inside that thinks you're going to fail that you succeeded. And even if you didn't exactly do it, you're on to the next success. You're on to the next commitment that's small and palatable and achievable. You can do this with everything in your life. You can do this with your risk management and your trading. You can do this with designing your plan. You can do this with so many things, and you're just taking these little tiny steps, and then evaluating how you did and how you can improve it, and then moving forward again. That's going to build that positive mindset, and it's going to take that part of you that speaks the negative offline. That's the key to get to stop reminding you about things in the past that you haven't accomplished or that you have a consequence for. To stop bringing that up to you, because now it's starting to believe that you can take care of these things yourself as an adult, as a person that puts positive spin on things. So that's what's so important in here, to be able to change it in that way. In the past, you let all that self-talk in, and challenges, if you do that again, challenges are just going to be tougher. So just let that part of you see that you are protecting yourself. That's really bearing repeating in here. And that will help you from sinking into these negative thoughts and going into that deep hole that we often go into when things are negative. That's the goal. The lesson in this video here is to, and there's several things in here, is to understand that past challenges, well, they're not about who you are. Release yourself from that. That's the self-forgiveness part of this. It's not about who you are. It is just simply an event that happened and that you are now stepping up to make it different. That is self-forgiveness. Embrace the positive aspects of you. What brings you success and joy? Those parts of you that you have seen in the past, do that and bring success. Set goals from that positive place. And they don't have to be huge. And again, you're no longer setting goals in a way that compensate for past failures. You're not looking back at things that were negative. You are simply looking forward at things that you are projecting that you can do with all the parts of you that are great. Set goals that are challenging and achievable. That's what we call that stretch. And be accountable. Check in. And even if you slip, check in with people anyway. Don't make a commitment that you're going to check in with them about what you're doing, and then hold back on that. Speaking it and putting it out in the universe, speaking your truth, is much healthier than keeping it inside. Then you're just at that point compounding the negatives, right? Not only did something not go as you wanted, or did you not fulfill a commitment that you made, but now you're hiding it, you're holding it in, and that even deepens the negative thoughts that you have. So, even if you slip, whoever you committed to check in with, do that anyway. Share it with them, let go of it, and then move on. And all of this will bring self-acceptance, self-loving, and nurturing. And that will help in such an enormous way. And that's what brings you the success you want and the joy in your life. I hope there were a lot of things that made a lot of sense to you in here. If you want to make a commitment to some stretch goal that you're going to do for the next week or two, and you don't have anybody to share that with, I'd be glad to be your buddy for that couple of weeks, even in the beginning of the year. And you just send me an email to slim@askSlim.com. I will say thank you for sharing that with me. And then if you want to write me another email in a couple of weeks to tell me how it went, well, do that too. And I'll just simply say thank you for sharing that with me, because I want to be there with you just as any good coach would want to be supportive. And anybody else in your life, I'm telling you, they want to be that also. So if you open up to them, you will be able to share and be able to feel really good about what you have done, what your accomplishments were, and be able to work through or talk through maybe how you missed. Remember, it doesn't mean anything about who you are. You're going to be in your greatness, in your self-loving, and all the dialogue that comes into your brain, you're going to work hard to keep that all positive and healthy. Let me know how you like this, and I will see you in the next segment.